Right, let's get into it. Today, we're looking at something, well, a bit unusual. It's a marketing plan for a shooting range, but it's all framed as a full-blown military operation. A bit dramatic, perhaps, but it does give us a surprisingly useful way to look at the brutal realities of running pretty much any business online these days.
My word, you'd think they were planning an invasion, not just trying to sell a few gift vouchers. But, behind all the over-the-top language, there's a kernel of truth. For most businesses, the real battlefield isn't out there in the physical world, it's digital. And on that battlefield, most of them are basically ghosts.
And this really is the whole story. You could have the best product, you can have the most experienced staff, you could even have a truly cracking cup of tea. But if you don't hold what they call the digital high ground, if people who are actively looking for you simply can't find you, then frankly, you might as well not exist.
So here's the crucial takeaway. The fight isn't won on the shop floor. It's won in the search results. Most businesses you see, they don't fail because they're bad at what they do. Oh no. They fail because they're just invisible to the very people who are trying to give them money.
Which brings us nicely to the costly misfires. These are the specific and often very expensive little mistakes that keep a perfectly good business hidden away in the digital shadows. So let's have a look at these weak points, these little gaps in the armor, shall we? Because this is where it all tends to go wrong. They have a rather dramatic term for this: tactical opportunity cost. It's a very grand way of saying all the money you've just cheerfully set on fire. It's the sales you missed because a link was broken, or a potential customer just got confused, gave up, and went to your competitor.
And here are the usual suspects, the self-inflicted wounds. Paying good money for adverts that lead absolutely nowhere, running campaigns with no idea if they're actually working, having your address wrong on half the internet. It's the digital version of leaving the front door wide open and forgetting to put the kettle on. Just basic, entirely avoidable stuff.
And this just says it all, really. One of the most common and costly mistakes isn't some complex tactical blunder. It's just forgetting to fill out a form. The most important mission, it turns out, is often just a bit of admin. A bit embarrassing when you think about it.
So what do you do if you suspect you have these blind spots? Well, according to this military playbook, you call in the specialists. This is what they term the external recon mission. Basically, getting an expert to come in and map the terrain for you before you make your next big move.
Now, the objective here isn't a sales pitch. It's purely a diagnostic mission. It's about getting some essential intelligence, a clear, unbiased map of what's working, what isn't, and what you should do about it. It shows you exactly where the problems are and why they matter to your bottom line.
Okay, so how does this intelligence mission actually work? Well, a proper audit isn't just a quick look around. It's a methodical, deep dive operation. It's a structured process designed to turn all that guesswork into an actual strategy.
And the process itself is commendably straightforward. First, the intel review, which is really just a fancy way of saying they gather up all your data. Second, the systems analysis, where they poke around and find out what's broken. And finally, you get the opportunity briefing, which is a very grand name for a report that tells you exactly what to do next.
Of course, to get this kind of intelligence, you have to grant a bit of access. Think of it as the price of admission. You have to give them temporary, secure access to your operational data. Without it, they're just guessing. They need to see the real battlefield, not some polished version of it.
Right. So the report lands on your desk. You now have a clear-eyed assessment of where you're strong, where you're weak, and where the real opportunities are. So, now what? You face a choice. What are you actually going to do with this information?
And you really have two paths. Path one is the do-it-yourself route. You take the playbook they give you and you roll up your own sleeves. Path two? Well, that's when you bring in the cavalry, or their marketing equivalent anyway. A special force unit that comes in and executes the plan for you, making sure it gets done quickly and correctly.
And this is the real point of the whole exercise. Intelligence is absolutely worthless if it just sits in a file somewhere. Its power comes from what you do with it. It's all well and good having the report, but it's completely pointless if you just end up using it as a coaster for your tea.
So as we wrap up this little debrief, let's just boil it all down. First, your biggest enemy is simply being invisible online. Second, the most damaging problems are usually the small, silly ones you've overlooked. And third, getting an objective, outside opinion is what turns guesswork into a real plan. So, it's worth asking yourself, is your online presence a precision tool, or is it just noise on the horizon?